new bipartisan bill called the Restrict Act. It would make it easier for the Biden administration to restrict access to TikTok. Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Mark Warner and House Intel Committee Chairman Mike Turner pushing for a ban on the Chinese-owned app in the United States. Watch.
The truth is, TikTok can be used as a propaganda mechanism for the Communist Party of China. That, I believe, is a national security concern.
We're handing over our phone systems by people downloading TikTok app, which has no division between the Chinese company, the Chinese government, and the Chinese Communist Party.
And joining me right now is FCC Commissioner, Senior Republican Brendan Carr. Commissioner Carr, great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Good to be with you. Thanks.
I want to read you a quote from one of my sources in Washington. He says this: I think this bill by Warner and Thune, which the White House says it will back, will get momentum. It gives the executive branch authorities that could allow it to ban TikTok, but it does not mention TikTok. If it passes, I bet Biden will sign it, but he will take no step to harm TikTok. A future president could ban it, but the damage will be until then severe, and it will be so entrenched in our society, we may have to live with it until it unravels our republic. Brendan, why is it that we've got a bill on the books to potentially ban TikTok, but TikTok is not mentioned?
Look, I think the tide has turned on TikTok. I think actually this is a very good sign. You have more senators, bipartisan, recognizing that this is a very serious national security threat. The reality is that we have a process in place right now at the Treasury Department, CFIUS, that has all the tools they need to take concrete action on TikTok, and that's what we need to do in the near term, because let's step back. Right now, we have reams of sensitive personal data flowing into China unchecked. We have TikTok admitting the worst-case scenario, the nightmare. They've actually been using the app to surveil the locations of specific Americans. And just today, you have the UK saying that they're going to ban TikTok on government devices as well. So things are moving in one direction. It's really just a matter of time at this point. Is it as soon as I would like that we reach a ban, which we need to do? No, but I think it's inevitable at this point.
TikTok reportedly hiring communications and consulting company SKDK, the same team that helped President Biden's 2020 presidential campaign. Coincidence?
Look, I think this is an attempt to put some very, very high-priced lipstick on a pig, but it's ultimately not going to work. One of the arguments recently that people have been floating is that you shouldn't ban TikTok in the near term because it's bad domestic electoral politics. And obviously, as a threshold matter, we should not be worrying about domestic electoral politics when we're looking at a national security threat like this. But second, I think people are misreading that. There's a poll that shows that only 30% of the country are actually opposed to a ban. And third, if people are perceived to be on board with kicking the can down the road on this, they're going to own all of the additional national security issues that arise. It's almost every week that a new shoe drops on something nefarious or malign that China is doing through the TikTok app. And I don't think people want to be associated with that going forward. But if we're not taking tough action, then they'll look that way. But yeah, that new consulting firm, maybe they can turn the band music up a little bit. Maybe they can move the deck chairs around a little bit. But this thing is heading one direction, which is either a ban or a complete corporate decoupling from ties back to communist China.
Brendan, explain the threat specifically of TikTok. I had two governors on yesterday, Kristi Noem, governor of South Dakota, and Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, who both expressed concern. These are just two of several governors that are banning the device on government devices, banning the app on government devices. But talk to us about American families and what they need to be explaining to their kids who may want TikTok on their phones. Tell us about the threat.
Yeah, Governor Noem, Governor DeSantis have been great, strong leaders on this. You're right. There's a whole set of national security issues that we talked about. But there's a separate issue that parents really need to be concerned about, which is mental health for kids. There's something very unique happening with TikTok. There was a study by the New York Times that showed that accounts set up for 13-year-old girls were showing self-harm and eating disorder content in as few as 30 minutes. You have comparisons now where you can look at the version of TikTok Douyin that's available in China, and it's showing very, very different content to the youth there. It's showing educational materials, museum exhibits, science experiments. Again, flash forward here, our kids are being shown things like the Blackout Challenge, which tries to convince kids to suffocate themselves to get some sort of brief euphoric high. We've had, I think, 20 kids, 13 and under, that have died from doing it. So parents should be very concerned about this, entirely separate from national security. I think that's great that we have almost 30 states that have taken action now.
So we've got the propaganda threat they're sending propaganda to make people think the Communist Party of China is this great, group, and then you've got the surveillance end of it. How risky is having the app on your phone with regard to surveillance? What are they accessing?
Look, it's everything from search and browsing history, keystroke patterns. Their terms of service say they may collect biometrics, including face prints and voice prints. On the propaganda side, FBI Director Chris Wray just testified that he was concerned that they could use it for foreign influence campaigns, including ahead of elections. And what's interesting is the CCP's propaganda arm, China Daily, responded to that claim that, for instance, at the hearing that Chris Wray testified, they said maybe they could use it to disrupt public opinion in the U.S. over Taiwan. The CCP didn't say, no, we would never do that. They said, what is Taiwan's any business of Americans anyway? So I thought it was a very interesting denial or non-denial when it comes to using TikTok. Again, 100 million Americans on there, 90 minutes a day, potentially for foreign influence to disrupt our thinking about such core issues as freedom in Taiwan.
Wow, amazing. Brendan, thanks very much for walking us through it. It's good to see you this morning, sir. Thank you so much.